So I never told anybody I was in the film. I mean, I did when I was in acting, but when I got out, I never told anybody about it. So I had friends here in Virginia 50 years later that said, you did what? You were an what? You know, so that part of my life, because that's not something you go around like, I didn't want to sound like I was bragging, you know?
Right. Like, how does that come up?
Yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of us, King Kong comes up every day. But for most people, it doesn't
Most
really. Hello and welcome to Camp Kaiju Monster Movie Podcast. We're your hosts, Vincent Hanna
and Matt Levine.
And we're talking about all our favorite monster movies, the good, the bad, and the downright campy, and asking if they stand the test of time.
Traditional kaiju, creature features, space invaders, the supernatural, and everything in between. All strange beasts welcome here.
And buckle up, Kaiju crew. This special episode of Camp Kaiju is brought to you by the Video Store Minneapolis. Do you want to help bring a brick-and-mortar video store back to Minneapolis? Well, the Video Store Minneapolis is trying to do just that. The Video Store Minneapolis is a volunteer-run nonprofit with a mission to preserve physical copies of every movie and TV series they can find, create a library of those titles, and make that library available to the people in their community. In the before times, a place like this was called a video store. Well, it's time to make one real again. The Video Store Minneapolis' 30-day online fundraiser for a brick-and-mortar space launches when? August 1st, 2026. Give if you can. Go to the Video Store, mpls.org for more. You'll find that link in our show notes. Eric, Godspeed. You're going to crush it. Listeners, give them a lift. Now, stick around for more than just that rad ad. We have Linda Miller on the show at Camp Kaiju. Linda Miller, the star of King Kong Escapes, the 1967 kaiju pick from Toho Studios. This is the sequel to King Kong vs. Godzilla. It is directed by Ishiro Honda. Alongside Linda Miller, you have actors Akira Takarada, a legend, Rhodes Reeson, who just lights up the screen. It is a wonderful film led by wonderful people, and we are so honored and grateful that one of those people, Linda, is willing to sit down and chat with us about her time on set, about her friendship with Takarada and Reeson, and what it was like to work with Ishiro Honda, the man himself. So it's truly such a special episode. We're so excited to share it with you. Special thanks to Thom Shubilla, the author, friend of the pod, for making it happen, for joining us himself on this conversation. And special thank you to our current paying Patreon members, Jason, Chris, Sean, Peggy, our anonymous patron, Don, Steffi, Jim Cheney, and Ben. Thank you. If you manage to get in any questions or comments to Linda, we will read those at the end of the episode. If you kind of missed the boat on that one, no worries. Just send us what you got, and I'll be happy to pass along any messages to Linda and read them here on the podcast. So thank you to those core Patreon members. Thank you to the other Patreon members. Thank you to listeners far and wide for tuning in. Give us a positive rating and review wherever you're listening to this show. Spread the word. And until next time, stay campy.
King Kong escapes and meets his greatest foe, the Kong of Steel. A gargantuan duel, unmatched by any battle in history. Thundering 60-foot robot Kong of Steel, creation of the evil Dr. Who, criminal genius who stops at nothing. Kong, once again, against the copter squad. A thousand thrills as King Kong battles the serpent of Mondo Island.
Not his Kong!
Hits himself against the nation's armament. And plunges a beautiful girl into a world of terror. King Kong in a duel to the death.
Oh, we have somebody else. Vincent.
Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good.
If you hear funny noises, I've got two cats. One wants in and one wants out.
What do you got to do about that, Linda?
Well, the one that wants in this area, and we don't let her in this area.
I see.
I got to let the one who wants out. I'll be right back.
Okay, no problem. Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Doing great. Nice seeing you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks for making the time. Glad we could make it work.
Yeah, no, me too. Hey, Matt.
Hey, how's it going?
Great.
Good. Good to see you again, Tom.
Nice seeing you as well. Linda's wrangling a cat. So
Gotcha. I know how difficult that can be.
Maybe your cat will make an appearance.
It's inevitable. He always does.
I just watched Green Slime
Oh my gosh.
right before this. So
I just watched that too.
Yeah, that was crazy, wasn't it? Yeah, that was an interesting shoot.
Yeah, care to elaborate a little bit?
Well, I wasn't even supposed to be part of it, but after King Kong escapes wrapped, my dad being in the service, we lived at the base. We lived at a housing area, and the housing area was right near Toho Studios. And a girlfriend of mine, who I don't remember who she is, that long ago, said they were shooting a film and there was some English speaking stars, and let's go check it out. So we just hopped in the car and went over. Of course, in those days, security was, you just went wherever you wanted to go. And so we get there and we're on the sound stage and we're watching them film and we're seeing the crazy monsters. And I'm thinking, oh my God, and a director, producer, somebody affiliated with the production came up to us and asked if we wanted to be in the movie. And I said, sure. So that's how we got the part.
There you go.
And that's why I don't have a speaking part, because I was never originally cast. It was just, there's two Americans, so let's put those foreigners in our film. Well,
I was looking at the things for Green Slime, and there was trailers from hell. It's directors look at trailers and break them down and stuff like that. And John Landis did Green Slime. And
no way.
Yeah, and he was talking about it, and he said, oh, the extras were from Air Force bases and embassies. And I was like, oh, right there, Linda.
That's right. I was probably 5-6 minutes drive from, I was really, really close. So we just, I had nothing to do. I didn't have anything, booked to do any other film or act or modeling or anything. So we just said, let's just go,
Yeah. Wow.
John Landis will see, I had never seen the movie. In 2021 or 22, I went to Bay Area. Bob Johnson has a convention there in the Bay Area every year. And so his is a little different. It's in an old time theater that has like 4 or 5 different theaters in one. And they were playing the original Godzilla, which I had never seen, the King Kong Escapes, which I'd seen, and Green Slime, and some other film I don't remember. So when they found out that I had never seen the original Godzilla, they made me get up from my table and go watch it, because it was on a loop. And that's when I saw Akira Takarada in that film, and he looked so young, Had he? No, he hadn't. Yeah, he had passed already. And then when they found out I'd never seen Green Slime, then they said, well, you have to see it because we have a panel afterwards. So I said, well, it's probably a good thing if I see it. So that's the first time I saw it.
What'd you think?
I thought the music was fabulous.
Yeah.
The music, the Yeah, the theme song of the Green Slime makes that film, I think.
Yeah.
Although, like I said, I just watched Green Slime. I've seen it before, obviously, but right before I watched Green Slime, and it better than I remembered.
Really?
I don't know. It had some intrigue. There was some drama.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I watched it last night. I loved it. Yeah, the old school special effects, the sets, the costumes, it's very enjoyable. And you're right about the theme song. That just encapsulates everything so charming about that movie, you know?
Well, what's really funny is the poster, which is behind me. Is that the other? Fans will say, "Oh, is that you?" And I go, "No, I wish that were me." Then that was after, Luciana Paluzzi, Well, the funny thing is, for King Kong Escapes, I'm a brunette naturally, light haired, and they wanted me to go blonde. So I went blonde for King Kong Escapes, hated it. So the minute we wrapped, I dyed my hair black. I'm back to, and it turned out red. So when I get to the set, I've got reddish hair instead of blondish hair. And so it's like, oh, the star's a redhead. So that probably was not a good fit to have, somebody else there with red hair. And I had a hairpiece, so my hair was longer than it was in King Kong Escape. So yeah, I'm in the dance scenes, the weird dance scenes we did, and drinking champagne. And I'm in some of the scenes in the infirmary. I've got a headband, or
That's
not a
right.
headband.
Bandage,
thank you.
For those dance scenes, did they give you a direction? Was it like, this is how people are going to dance in the future, or?
Yes, we had somebody demonstrate. We all looked at him like, "Are you serious?" so part of acting is pretending that what you're doing isn't silly as can be. Yeah, we did those dance scenes. Right. Those were choreographed dance scenes.
Fantastic. Watching especially the infirmary scenes, it looked like you and all the other gals were having fun. It just looked like y'all got along really well. I don't know if that was true, but what do you remember being on? Like, what was the set like in the atmosphere?
What I remember the most is that Richard Jackal was very, very nice and funny and sociable and just one of the guys. And the other two were very standoffish. Now, I think Luciana may have been a combination of she may be shy, and she just came off of a Bond film, multi-million Bond film, to this Green Slime, and she's probably thinking, "What the hell happened here?" And Robert Horton was very, very standoffish. I don't recall him speaking to anybody, whereas Richard was just completely the opposite. Now, as far as the rest of us, we were all locals. We all lived in Japan, military or embassy kids. And so even though we didn't know each other, there was kind of that feeling that we were that group, So we all got along, I mean, nobody was acting like a superstar or anything, but we all got along. Yeah.
That's awesome.
In fact, there's supposedly Kathy, and it starts with an H. I can't remember. Supposedly she and I were really good friends, but I don't remember her. So I've had fans say, "Oh yeah, I heard you were good friends with Kathy." And I asked my agent to see if he could look her up so I could say, "Were we friends?" Because I don't remember.
She says, "Linda, my best friend."
Yeah.
You mentioned, I think you talked about it in the interview that we did in my book. Somebody said, you were having a torrid love affair with somebody on the set too.
The guy that I'm in the dance scene with, I found out 50 years later that we had this torrid love affair. I said, "We did." I missed the best parts of it. Yeah, he'd been telling people that he and I were an item, and he had done interviews after the fact saying that he and I were an item, and I met him on the set, and I never went out with him. He never even asked me out, so it was. Wow. I didn't even have a chance to reject him. Yeah.
Buddy, you gotta make a move if you want to.
Yeah. So there's lots of stories that the stars of today talk about the tabloids, and I can see where people will make things up for all kinds of reasons besides just money. But oh yes, I was with this person and that person.
You know who I think your best romantic lead was?
Who?
The big guy himself,
Yeah.
Mr. Kong.
Yeah.
Of course.
What was it like working with the special effects and obviously it was the actor in the suit, but you had to work with these animatronics, it looked like, the puppets.
Okay, I'm going to really disappoint you and tell you I never worked with Nakajima-san.
All right, interview over, everybody.
I'm so sorry. I never worked with him 1 millisecond. He never was on my set or soundstage. But I did meet him accidentally. Rhodes and Arthur Rankin and myself, I don't know if we were in the makeup trailer. We were somewhere on the lot. And it was after shooting because I was in regular clothes. And we came out and I think he happened to be there in costume. And it just so happened a photographer was there. So they got pictures of us meeting. And that was the only time I ever met him when I was doing the film. I didn't actually meet him as a person till after we started doing conventions together.
Oh, really?
So during filming, I never met him. But I did watch his character. One day I had some extra time and I went to another sound stage, and that's where all the special effects. It was the scene on the island where King Kong, they throw the gas cans down and then the helicopters pick him up and fly him away. I watched them film that scene, and it was like an elevated rack of some kind. They had these little trees and these little mountains, and if you just scooted down a little bit and like looked through that lens, it looked so realistic. And so I watched them film that scene, and it was fabulous. But unfortunately, we didn't meet on the set, like I say. So, and as far as the special effects, whenever I'm in his hand, I was on a blue screen behind me. The soundstage was nothing but big blue screen. And they had this gigantic hand, and had a little bit of a ladder. They would bring it down and then a little bit of a ladder, and I'd jump into the hand. And the hand was really hard. It was metal covered in fake fur, and it was very uncomfortable. And then they would lift me up and they would tell me what the scene, I would know what the scene is and how he wanted me to react to whatever was going to be going on. And that's how that came about. And I remember when I read this script, I'd never acted. I had no affiliation with films at all other than enjoying them. And so I kept thinking, how the hell are they ever going to do this? How am I going to get this big thing and this little, I just couldn't even imagine how they were going to do it. Very exciting to me and educational. And it was just, wow. It was pretty cool.
I bet. What a break.
Yeah.
And how did that even come about? Did you just walk on the set and say, here I am now? Or did you?
Very close to that.
Yeah. Okay.
At the time, when I got there in 1965, I missed my graduation party because we got orders to fly. Dad had he arrived in February and said, let us stay back until I graduated, because I graduated a year early. So, but then we got orders that we had to be on a plane in San Francisco on the day of my graduation. So I missed that. So we get there and my dad says, do you remember the little girl you lived next door to when we lived in France? And I go, yeah. I think I was 8, 9, and 10 when we lived in France, or 7, 8, 9. And so she was having a graduation party because she graduated. So I went to her graduation party, and there was a girl there that I met. Now I'm 5'1.5" if I stand up straight. And she was like 4'11". And she was talking about how she earned all this money modeling. And it just intrigued me because I looked at her and she was pretty, but she wasn't like Twiggy or at that time or
right. Yeah.
The supermodels. I thought, damn, if she can do it, maybe I can do it too. So I picked her brain, found out she went to a charm school. So I called and I went down to my dad and my mom and I went down to the charm school. And she was a retired TWA stewardess who lived in Japan and opened up this business for all these foreigners. Because in Harajuku, it's like central Tokyo, and there's a lot of embassies and foreigners in that general area. Okay. And so I had this charm school. So I went to the charm school and I started working probably within a couple of weeks of being in the charm school. And I learned how to put on makeup and do funny things like that. And so I started working as a model. And at the time that I got the call from Arthur Rankin, I had a contract with with a weekly, like a 17 magazine, a young girls magazine for the cover. This other American girl, she and I would switch off each week. And then sometimes we'd do the weeks together. And so Arthur had seen my photograph, found out I lived in Japan. I don't know how he found me, because it wasn't like I was in the Tokyo phone book, but found me and then called me and said, my name's Arthur Rankin from Rankin Bass, which meant nothing to me. and he said, I would like to talk to you about being in my film. And I said, but I'm not an actress. I don't know how to act. No, we can talk about all that, So I was 18 at the time and only child. And so my parents were very protective. And my dad, being in the military, was super protective. I was not allowed to date any GIs at all. Because he said, I used to be one and I'm not letting you go there.
Sure.
I said, okay. So he was a captain at that time, and all the first and second lieutenants were in his orb, and so I wasn't allowed to date any of them. So we went down there, and when Arthur called, I talked to my parents, and they said, yeah, you can go meet him for dinner because Tokyo is a really safe place. So I met Arthur for dinner, and he was telling me all about King Kong. I said, are you talking about the Fay Ray part?
Right.
And I said, I don't know how to act. I can't do that. And so, we had a little bit of discussion about it, and he was very kind of mellow, not pushy. And we met two or three times more. And it got to the point where he said, hey, you look like Lieutenant Susan Watson. That's why I want you in my film. Not because you know how to act, but you look like her. And he says, it's not that hard of an acting job. You'll be just fine. So I didn't know whether to be flattered or upset with him saying, you don't have to act, even if you can't act. And I kept saying, but Arthur, I'm going to ruin your film. I don't know what I'm doing. But finally I said, okay, if you want to pay me and you're not worried, and you don't think I'm going to make a fool out of myself, I'll do it. So then my mom got involved. My mother should have been an agent. Arthur stepped back, and now it was in Toho's hands. My contract was with Toho, not an American contract, which explains a lot of stuff. My contract was Toho. So Toho offered me some money, and my mom said, no, you're not doing it for that. And I'm going, Mom, I'm going to be in a movie. And she, no, you're not doing it. And she held out for a long time.
Good for her.
Yeah. And that's why she should have been an agent. And so finally Toho said, okay, we'll give you the money. Just get your butt down here. So then, I signed the contract and got the script and went down for makeup and for costume and all that. And it was all so exciting until the first day of shooting. And then I was terrorized. I was just so out of my element. I was almost catatonic, at some point.
The distant stars, the lonely, helpless earth, the 21st century, the world of the future, and lurking beyond the cold, strange immensity of conquered space, growing and spreading beyond the warped imagination of the greatest human intellect, exploding in unspeakable horror, the green slime. the civilized world at war with alien form, whose slimy touch means instant, horrible death. Invaders from beyond the stars, the green slime. Robert Horton, Luciana Paluzzi, Richard Jacob.
You make too many mistakes. You're not right for command.
This is my command, and I'll manage it.
Two men struggle for survival in the infected remains of a diseased universe.
Don't ask any questions.
One woman searches for a last chance to save the human race from the desperate hunger of the green slime. A battle in space against faceless beings. A cosmic nightmare that sends you into the incredible, berserk world of green slime! Green slime! Green slime!
Pounding across the motion picture screen comes the most terrifying monster of them all. Gamera, the Invincible. Gamera, the super monster that even the H-bomb cannot destroy. Gamera, the Invincible. Attention everyone! Take cover! Gamera, consuming raw atomic power. Power to destroy entire cities. Open fire! Man's most destructive weapons have no effect on Gamera, the Invincible. The mightiest nuclear weapons ever devised are powerless against Gamera, the Invincible. Is humanity doomed? Will the world be destroyed? The United Nations is called to emergency session in a last desperate effort to save the world.
We have one plan that we think might work. We have discussed Plan Z with the Japanese authorities, and they agree it is the best of our alternative plans. Is that correct, sir?
That is so. Plan Z is hope of the world.
A cast of thousands at the mercy of the most terrifying monster that ever lived. Brian Donlevy as General Arnold.
Is beyond comprehension. He must be stopped now.
Albert Decker as the Secretary of Defense. Will Plan Z stop Gamera? Gamera, the Invincible.
Nothing the screen has ever shown before can surpass the thrills of Ghidorah, the three-headed monster. Created from an atomic fireball hurled from outer space, Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, threatens man's very existence on Earth. Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, battles Godzilla, Mothra, and Rodan for mastery of the world. Men quake before the terror of their unleashed fury. All new, all never to be forgotten. A new high in screen terror. the three-headed monster.
What was that like? How did you work through that?
Yeah.
My background is in acting
Okay,
myself,
okay.
so I get it 100%.
Yeah. I signed a contract, and I didn't think I could get. I didn't want to get out. I wanted to do the film. I just didn't want to look like an idiot and embarrass myself.
Understandable. Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm one of those people that sometimes will say yes to something, not having understood the total ramifications.
Also true.
Very, very guilty. Very guilty.
Therefore, I'm very adventuresome because I don't think, oh my God, this could go really bad. So I just gritted my teeth and got on the set, and thank God for Rhodes' reason. You know, Rhodes was loud. He was theatrical. He was a little bit obnoxious, but he was very kind with me. And it was obvious I didn't know what I was doing. And he many times came to my aid and said, you know, this is what I would do, and this is how you do it. And he was very, 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 very kind and very helpful. There were some interviews I read of his after the fact that weren't so kind to me, but during the filming of it, he was a sweetheart. So I just did it. And every time I'd come back to we didn't have trailers. It was like an office building with little rooms. I'd come back to my dressing room, and I said to my mom, I know they're going to fire me. I just know they're going to fire me. And for 2 weeks, I said that. And then after 2 weeks, I thought, well, they've sent a lot of money. They're probably not going to fire me, you know. But Rhodes told me, don't go to dailies. Don't go. But I wanted to go. I wanted to see. So I went to dailies, and I was horrified. There was no music or no sound effects. It was just raw. And I went, oh my God, this is horrible, you know. And that's why I said to my mom, they're going to fire me, you know. So, but as, you know, as you do something, you get different stages of being a little bit more relaxed. And so when I started to relax, and it wasn't that challenging, the very first scene when I'm on the ship and I'm walking through and I'm talking about giving them castor oil or something like that, and I'm misleading. That was the very first scene. I felt like a wooden soldier walking through there because my background was modeling where it's static. You know, you pose and do whatever, and acting is fluid, right? As comparison. And I felt like I was a tin soldier, you know, just walking through the scene. And then when I saw it years and years later, I went, that wasn't that bad, you know, because in my mind, it was like horrible.
It's always worse in your mind.
Thank God, because my mind was in a dark place, you know. And I was like, wow, it wasn't that bad, you know. And there's one scene that I wish they would have cut out that I think is horrendous. But so it just, you know, bit by bit, you know, I felt a little bit more comfortable, and Rhodes would give me little tips, and Rhodes and Takarada got along fabulously. So there was a very nice family feeling on the set. So I felt safe when I went there, and I felt accepted and kind of treasured because I was so young, and I felt like everybody was my big brother, you know. In fact, I didn't know that Takarada and I had supposedly a love connection until years later when somebody told me, because my mind never went there. I just thought, you know, we're all big brothers, you know, to me. So
I'll echo all that just as a viewer. Just I watch King Kong Escapes, and my taste in movies, like, it can be a big extravagant monster movie, but if there's a sincerity in the cast, that's what keeps me coming back to it. And the three of you, I could tell there's chemistry between the three of you.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the movie, and I'm picking up on these very subtle romantic notes between you and Takarada. But yet the movie never like really goes overtly in the romantic aspect. So it's also like you two care for each other, maybe as siblings would do. And it's just very sweet, and and it works for me, and it's very wholesome. It's like, it's just it
was very wholesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also, too, at that particular time, it wouldn't have been appropriate for an interracial thing.
Also crossed my mind, too.
Yeah. Whereas today, it's totally different. So, so they could kind of give you a little drop. Like when I drink wine, I don't like wine, but I like water with a drop of wine. So that's what they were to flavor the water. And that was kind of like what they were doing. And the only time I kind of sensed it after I saw the film was when we were in the dungeon and it was cold and he was protecting me,
That's such a sweet scene. And Rhodes is doing his thing and he plays the part so well of like the gruff protector.
Oh, yeah.
And almost ironically, because you would think, again, just as a viewer, the more traditional romantic angle would be you and Rhodes. But I like that the script doesn't do that. I don't know if that was the script or if that was Honda or like who was making those creative choices, but it's good. It's not what you'd expect.
You could definitely always tell that Rhodes, has that Western background. Like you could, that cowboy role definitely comes through in his acting.
Well, he wasn't originally cast in the part. There was another fellow when I first got cast. There was another fellow, and I cannot remember his name, but he was on. He did a lot of westerns or had his own Western TV show. He was like a Clint Walker kind of guy, and he died. He was doing a film. He was either a part of the film or after when they weren't shooting, and he drowned in a river. And so Rhodes was cast at the very last second, But I think it was very good casting. Yeah. Because Rhodes was very much in charge, and Rhodes was an actor's actor, but he and Takarada got along so great. They used to tell dirty jokes on the set. Now, he spoke no Japanese. Takarada spoke no English, but somehow they communicated in dirty jokes.
International language of dirty jokes.
Languages, yeah. With hand gestures and all kinds of stuff.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
When we talked previously, just going back to Rhodes, and I just really liked the story of Rhodes not letting you date Richard Dawson, of all people.
But he's letting you date, Linda. What's going on?
No wonder I'm still single. No, let me tell you that story. Rose became a fan. My mom was on the set all the time. So Rose became a family friend. And he said, when you come back to the States, look me up. I'll get you an agent. I'll get you into acting school. I'll get you started. Because by then I had caught the bug. And I said, okay. So we wrapped in June or July of 67. And I came back to the States in February of 68. So we went over to, I can't remember his wife's name at the time, but we went over to their house, had dinner, my family, his family. My dad was still in the Air Force, so he was up in San Francisco area. So my mom was with me down in LA. And so I mentioned to Rhodes that Richard Dawson, I don't know how I met Richard Dawson, but I met him. And I thought he was cute and he was very charming and I wanted to go out with him. And I mentioned to Rhodes and he said, you will not go out with that man. Because I was 19 or 20 at the time and he was probably in his 30s, which was just big enough of a gap. And I was very sheltered. So I was not real worldly at the time. And so he absolutely did not want me going out. In fact, he would not let me go out with Richard Dawson. Was not my choice. So.
To be fair, I wouldn't let you go out with Richard Dawson either.
There you go.
Yes. If that were my child, I wouldn't let her go out with him. No matter how cute and charming he was. That was part of his problem. Yeah. So, yeah, that was funny that he did that. And he's the one who took me down to Estelle Harmon's acting class on La Brea in LA and got me involved in acting. He's the one that got me an agent. I mean, he hooked me up and I had to get it myself. And that's when they changed my name from Linda Miller to Leslie Michaels.
Leslie Michaels.
And My Three Sons?
Yes. When I did My Three Sons, I had my SAG card under Leslie Michaels.
Mm.
And because Linda Miller is Jackie Gleason's daughter, which I didn't know at the time. And guess how many Jackie Gleason's daughters I loved you in this film and that film that I was never in because they think I'm her. So I just sign it and send it back to them, you know.
Oh my gosh.
Did you have any say in that name, in the name Leslie Michaels? Did you have any kind of say in that, or did they just kind of put it upon you?
They kind of said, that should be your name. And I said, okay. I didn't know. I was like, I guess this is how it works in Hollywood.
Wow.
I could have gone Linda Jo Miller and it would have been fine, but nobody was thinking that back then.
Mm-hmm.
Because now a lot of people know me as Linda Jo Miller because I tend to use the full name, you know, when I'm not when I'm signing, but legal papers. I use my
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how that all came about. And I had often thought about, well, after I did My Three Sons, not long after that, I decided to get out of the business. And so I paused, or I didn't give up my SAG card, but you can like put it in like purgatory or something. What's it? And during COVID, I contacted them and asked them about, can I reinstate it and what would it cost? And is it possible? And can I put it back to my name? And that there was nobody working at that time. They said, well, you know, so I just let it drop. I mean, I have no reason for it. I'm not doing films or not any SAG films. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. But you're very busy these days.
Yeah.
Traveling, and you're doing conventions a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Normally I did 3, maybe 4 a year, but then I changed agents. Well, I have to tell you this story. January, I was in the hospital. Oh, let me back up. 2022, Carl Craig, who is a friend of mine who also does conventions. We lived in Japan at the same time. He did Gamera as a child. So we lived on the same base, and we didn't know each other because I'm 10 years older. But anyway, he and I do conventions sometimes. So we got invited to this convention near Philly. That was a first-time convention, which is always, you just never know what you're going to get. There might be 2 people there. There might be 20,000, you know. So we go, and nobody was there. I think I did like $500 the whole weekend, and he did $200. And the guy sitting next to me who was in Friday the 13th didn't do even $5. That's how bad this place was.
Oh my gosh.
But he had this agent there, this little, some people, when they think of Italian men, they think of big men, but a lot of Italian men are these really thin, small guys. And he was just, he should have been like in Vegas, you know, picking his fingers. He should have hit gold all over. He didn't. He was much classier than that. And I just liked him because I like odd people, you know, and he was just odd, decent, but odd, you know. So he and I hit it off. And he said, we've got to work together. Well, I waited 4 years. I periodically would say, remember me, don't forget me. And he'd promptly forget me. And then 4 years later, I'm in the hospital. I'm on a gurney. I don't know why I've got my phone with me. They're down to do some x-rays. And he calls me. And he says, hey, are you ready to work? And I go, yeah, I'm ready. Here I am in hospital gown, laying on, you know, they're wheeling me into the x-ray places. And so he's got me 8 this year, which is more than I've ever done. So busy. Yes. Yeah. I had to cancel one because my mom got sick. But then they have another one. They invited me back. And so I'm going this weekend up to Boston. It's in New Hampshire area to do.
Okay.
So yeah, I've been really busy. And I did 2 films. I did 2. I had a part in 2 films last year. And they were like, you know, C- type. But the one guy, I met him and his wife when I was doing another convention last year. And he says, I have a part just for you. And so I look sweet, you know, so he cast me as a mafia's wife, a mafia boss's wife, who he cheated on me, and I put a hit out on him. I said, yes, I want to do that, you know. Nobody would cast me as that, you know. So, but then I I did not put the hit on him. I put it on my attorney instead. So, so I did that. And then I did another face right after the same month. It was in September last year, a faith-based film, a friend of a friend who goes to my church. She was doing a film, and she needed an elderly aunt because everybody there was in their 20s. So I said, well, I guess that's me. So she needed an elderly aunt. And I had a decent spot in that. And then this weekend, I think one of the guys there that had actually got me the job for next weekend is doing a short film, and he wants Carl and I both to do it. So yeah, so life has been very good. I'm very blessed. I'm very grateful. It's like, you have different stages of your life. And the first third of my life was fun and opportunity and adventure. The second third of my life was, okay, now I'm an adult. I have responsibilities, And the third phase of my life is I get to play again, So I'm just really happy with all that.
I know that you like with conventions and stuff, you're saying that you didn't, for the longest time, you didn't know that people were looking for you. People liked this movie. In that time, I mean, did you have any inclination that people liked this movie, that it was, you never saw it on television or, anything like that?
No, no, I didn't. Because when I came back in 68, they didn't show it in LA that much, but my cousins living in Pennsylvania would say, oh, New York, every holiday they're showing this film, and so they videotaped it. Not video. What is it? What was it?
Like recorded it?
Yeah, recorded it and sent it to me. And I thought, oh my God, listen to that voice. And I thought, I'm not telling anybody I'm in this film because that voice is so horrible. And I felt so embarrassed by it and angry at Arthur because, in fact, Rhodes said to me, okay, now, we're going to have to dub the whole film all over again. And so they'll be calling you and bringing you to the States to do it. So I'm waiting for the phone call, and it never came, and I forgot about it. And so when I heard the voice, it's just like all the blood ran out of my face. I felt disrespected, to be totally honest.
Yeah.
And really, and I felt, was I that bad of an actress? They had to get somebody to dub my voice. And so that did a number on me, my confidence. And so I never told anybody I was in the film. I mean, I did when I was in acting, but when I got out, I never told anybody about it. So I had friends here in Virginia 50 years later that said, you did what? You were an what? So that part of my life, because that's not something you go around like, I didn't want to sound like I was bragging,
Right. Like, how does that come up?
Yeah.
Yeah, for a lot of us, King Kong comes up every day. But for most people, it doesn't really.
No, most people I hang around with don't.
All right, well, this is a good time for our sponsor break. Do you want to help bring a brick and mortar video store back to Minneapolis? Well, the Video Store Minneapolis is trying to do just that. The Video Store Minneapolis is a volunteer-run nonprofit with a mission to preserve physical copies of every movie and TV series they can find, create a library of those titles, and make that library available to the people in their community. In the before times, a place like this was called a video store. Well, it's time to make one real again. The Video Store Minneapolis' 30-day online fundraiser for a brick-and-mortar space launches when? August 1st, 2026. Give if you can. Go to the video store, mpls.org, for more. You'll find that link in our show notes.
Japanese homeland.
Captain, water in the conning tower.
Godzilla!
Godzilla!
Roaring defiance to the only enemy on Earth strong enough to challenge him. The unconquerable King Kong, giant gorilla god of this South Seas paradise, where sensuous maidens offer themselves in ritual sacrifice to his brute embrace.
Godzilla has a brain about this size. He is sheer brute force. While Kong is a thinking animal. His brain is considerably larger, about 10 times the size of this gorilla's skull. Being instinctive rivals, there is no doubt that they will attempt to destroy one another.
King Kong versus Godzilla, heading for their colossal collision, shattering every obstacle that stands between them in the most fantastic rampage of annihilation ever recorded on film. See King Kong stamp Tokyo into the ground, holding a beautiful girl in his grasp. See Godzilla destroy an entire army. See King Kong trapped by the blazing barrier of 1 billion volts. But nothing, nobody can stop the great showdown when King Kong and Godzilla meet to fight for survival of the fittest.
Across the centuries comes this exciting story of a modern girl cursed by an ancient legend. The legend of the cat people. Women whose kiss means death, whose love turns them into vicious, snarling beasts of prey.
Twice I've been followed by something that was not human, something that attempted to take my life. I believe that was the cat form of Irena.
Why should she wish to harm you?
Because I'm in love with her husband. It's shut now. Just a minute ago, it was open.
It's locked. Leave us, Irena.
So in 2015, I got a phone call from a guy named Brett. And he said, "Hi, my name is Brett Hominick, and I live in Japan." And I said, he called me at work. I said, "Oh my gosh, I used to live in Japan too." He goes, "I know, I've been looking for you." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because you have a fan base." And he said, "I've been looking for you for about 10 or 15 years. I said, "But for what?" And he said, "But you've got fans." I said, "For what?" He goes, "On Escapes." And I said, "Are you serious?" I said, "I did that movie 50 years ago, longer now." He said, "Oh, no." He says, "There's a big fan base and they do conventions and people would love to see you there." I almost fell off my chair.
I bet.
And the only reason I listened to him, because when people are in the business, and you will understand this, and probably all of us will, you're leery of have I got something good for you, lady? You're leery.
Mm-hmm.
And so I listened to what he said, kind of with my eyes half shut. Mm-hmm. And I said, "How did you find me?" He said, "Boy, you were really hard to find." He said, "Do you know how many Linda Millers there are in the United States?" I said, "Yeah, because when I moved to LA, I used to get called for, 'Are you the Linda Miller that's the Playboy Bunny?' No.
Oh my gosh.
'Are you the Linda Miller that has the wild parties on Huntington Beach?' No. So I knew there was a ton of us around, and I couldn't get my SAG card because there's already another Linda Miller. And he said, "I was talking to a friend of yours who happened to know your middle name, and that's how I found you." And I said, "Who's the friend?" And he said, "Natsuki Yosuke." Well, now, Natsuki Yosuke was my first love. I met him doing King Kong Escapes, and we had a mad love affair. My first mad, passionate, crazy love affair. And he was one of the nicest men I'd ever met. I'd always held him on a pedestal. Even 50 years later, I would think of him thinking, gosh, I wish one day I could see him again, And so when he said Natsuki, that legitimized everything. So that's when he said, I'd like to write an article for G-Fan about you since I found you. And he said, but you just have to promise you won't come out until after the article comes out. And I said, come out? Where am I going to come out? And I said, okay, I make that promise to you. So right before the article came out, I got a call from an agent asking me to go to a convention. And I said, I can't. I gave my word that I wouldn't come out. So I can't do that. I wanted to go so bad, but I didn't. And then the article came out. So, and then the rest kind of fell into place.
There's a big Godzilla convention in Chicago every year.
Yeah, G-Fest.
G-Fest. Have you ever been there?
I've been there twice. My first convention I did at Chiller in New Jersey, October 15th. Then in 2016, we went to Japan, and that's where I met Nakajima as a human, as a man, and hooked up with Takarada again. And then in 2016, I did G-Fest. And then I did G-Fest this is 26, I think, and 24. That's fun.
Matt and I were there. You want to?
Oh, you are?
Yep.
Talk about it,
2023, I think, right? Is that when we were?
23. Okay. Yeah. It all goes by so fast.
Yeah.
And it was amazing, though. Yeah.
I'm going to be back this weekend. Unfortunately, I guess our ships are crossing in the night, but that'd be great one day if we ended up at the same convention.
That would be awesome. G-Fest is tailor-made for my film. You know what I'm saying? And so that's my most successful in terms of money and fun and fans. Well, how do you say money? Finances, fun, and fans. And it is kind of, I don't want to say it's my favorite, but there are aspects of it that are my favorite. They treat you all the conventions treat you really nice, but they go a little overboard. I got a gorgeous suite. And I was like, wow, this is like royalty here. And so that's like my genre. And at other conventions, there's mixed genres. So they're not as powerful as this is Kaiju,
Right.
But I did Kaiju Brooklyn. I guess that was 24. And that was very successful. I was very, very surprised, and because it was all concentrated, the artists, everybody, we were all a big family there, Kaiju family. And those are my favorite because it's not watered down with horror and anime and things like that. Anime people are crazy anyway. So.
Those conventions, there's a different flavor.
Yeah. In 2018, Carl and I did GalaxyCon in Richmond, which had different genres, but anime was like the biggest draw. And we sat right next to him. And he and I twiddled our thumbs all weekend. Oh. And the lines for the anime were like around, and we just looked at each other and says, well, we didn't have anything else to do this weekend, So.
That's the spirit.
Yeah. I mean, even if I made $100, I wouldn't have made $100 sitting at home, and I wouldn't have as much fun, and I wouldn't have met as many people. In fact, the first agent I worked with, my little, paranoia thing, he emailed me and he said, my name is so-and-so and I'd really like to work with you and da-da. And I just didn't like the vibe, so I didn't respond. So he, unbeknownst to me, there was a UPS package or a FedEx package on my desk that I never opened for like a month. And then because I thought it was something else. So I thought I thought it was work related, that I'll deal with that when I'm ready to deal with that. So I was ready to deal with that. And I opened up and there's a letter from Takarada encouraging me to work with this guy and come to conventions.
Wow.
And I went, oh man, I should have done this a month ago. So I emailed him back. So I started working with him for a while, for a couple of years. And then in January, I changed to this other guy that is able to get me more work. My first agent's attitude was, I don't want to overexpose you by having you at too many conventions. Then you're not going to make as much money. People are not going to be excited to see you, which is true if I were 20 years old and looking for a career. I said, Jim, I'm in my late 60s then, I think. I'm 68, whatever. I said, I don't care if I'm overexposed because I've only got this much time to be exposed, Yeah. And I said, so I want to, and I like working. I said, I want to work. Book me wherever you can. It's not about the money for me. I mean, I like the money. It's not about the money. It's about the fun and the fans. And there's nothing better than having people love on you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you think that okay, so let's say you decided to do this 20 years earlier, let's say. Like, do you think you would have the same reaction to this? Like, or is it just now that, like, it was so many years after the movie, you were like, okay, I'm here.
Who knows? I think I would have a lot of what I feel now because I appreciate things. I'm just one of those people that, somebody pays for my coffee. I'm standing, I don't go to Starbucks because they're overpriced. I'm standing in line. Sorry. I'm in my car and in line. Someone pays for my coffee. I appreciate that. I like things like that. So I think I would have an appreciation, but now that I'm older and at the end, I hate to say that. I'm not at the end of my life. I'm at the ending of my life. I really appreciate it. I really do. Yeah. I remember when Jim and I first talked about doing conventions, I said, what concerns me is, number one, I don't look like I used to look. Nobody does 50 years later. I'm not that 19-year-old ingenue. I've gained weight. I just look different. And he said, he calmed me down. He said, don't worry. He says, none of them look like they used to either. None of your fans. And he said, so it's going to be fine. I said, okay. And then my very first convention, I said to my mom, oh my God, I hope somebody wants my autograph. I'm going to be so embarrassed if nobody asks for my autograph, because I had no point of reference of what to expect. And I was just blown away at how the fans were excited, It wasn't me, Linda Miller. It was Susan Watson, King Kong Escape. They were excited for the character, to meet the character. And that just blew me away. I was like, wow, And so that's, that's the fun part for me, you got to pack and get all your stuff together and get on the plane and get there. And, there's some hassle to it, but it's like showtime. And it's just, it's fun. Even when you answer the same question,
I bet
5,000 times, I would never, ever say, oh, for God's sakes, that question again.
What are some of the common questions you'll get?
Oh, now you ask me. One. Do I still keep in touch with, at the time, with Takarada or Nakajima or Rhodes? And did I ever meet what was it like with Hamamiya? And what was it like with Honda-san? And, they're logical questions that anybody would want to know. So I just remind myself that I just heard this for the first time. So I'm going to answer it like I did for the first time, So...
What was it like working with Honda?
I was going to ask it.
I started laughing and I didn't hear. Working with who?
Ishiro Honda.
Oh, Honda-san.
Yeah.
He was daddy on the set. He was in command. Very gentle soul, very gentle man. Soft spoken, never got angry, but he definitely was in charge. And he liked to help me act by demonstrating how he wanted me to do the scene. He would act it out for me. So there's a scene where first time I'm come into contact with Kong and Gorosaurus, whatever his name is, and he puts me in the tree, and I'm supposed to go like that. That was exactly what he did. He said, I want you to like that. And I said, okay. So I did it. So he was I can't say the word. He
Yeah,
participated.
Yeah.
And
More
so,
hands-on, it sounds like.
very hands-on. You knew when he liked what you did, and you knew when he didn't like what you did. But
Right.
he never embarrassed you. And he made you want to do your best. I wanted, because there's so many aspects, I didn't know what I was doing, it wasn't confident. I wanted to please him. And so I really tried my hardest to do what was, I thought, expected of me and what he wanted of me.
Mm-hmm.
And we had an interpreter on the set, translator, and his name was Henry Okawa, because Rhodes spoke no Japanese. I spoke Japanese, having lived there, but it was conversational. So if it got in really technical stuff, I didn't understand that. So Henry would translate for us, and Honda just had a way about him. I just really liked the man as a man. And the biggest compliment he paid me was at the end of the film, because I lived in Japan. I'm back up. Because I lived in Japan, I was aware and polite about following the customs and the hierarchy. And I kind of knew my place, and I was okay. That's where my place was. And that's where I would be the most successful, to stay in my lane. And so the biggest compliment he paid for me, when film had wrapped and we were doing the cast and crew photo, and he was in the very middle, and some other people were sitting him, and I was sitting over to the side, and he looked at me and goes, "Linda-san." And that's how we do this and they do that. See, like that. And he had me sit right next to him. And that just that just made my world, when he did that. Wow. Yeah. It was the biggest compliment he paid me. And he just was a cool guy. And I didn't know who any of these people were. I didn't know that he did, Godzilla and
I was going to ask that too.
I didn't know. I was a complete dodo. I didn't know anything. I didn't know Takarada had done Godzilla, and he could sing and dance, and that he was a real entertainer. I had no idea. And I knew Hamamie from James Bond. I knew her. But everybody else I didn't know. And I'm so glad I didn't. I think I would have been more intimidated.
I would have, naturally. I mean, what I thought about was, now we look back on these films with almost a reverence. Like they're so much larger than life. But in 1967, was the perception different? Was it just another job, just another movie? You didn't know, sounds like, their resume, but maybe because it wasn't as renowned, maybe, for lack of a better word, as it is now. Mm-hmm. That makes sense.
Yeah.
I think all those films, definitely got more revered as time went on. I just kind of based on any interview and talking to Linda, it doesn't seem like people were saying, well, we're making a really important film. People are looking, people look up to these films and waiting for them. It was a film they obviously took very seriously, and a film that they cared about. But did they know that we would be on a podcast in 2026 talking about this? No.
Right.
No. Yeah, I think that's true. Yeah, I don't think any of us knew. I mean, Rhodes never ever considered, that this would be a film that anybody would watch, And who was it? I guess it was Brett Hominick must have interviewed Rhodes. Somebody, maybe it was, who cares? Somebody I knew had interviewed Rhodes, and he was surprised that there was so much interest in the films.
Well, I was just curious, Linda, do you think there was a time during production on King Kong Escapes when you felt, you kind of gained a new confidence in your skills as an actor, and you were like, I know this is what I want to do now. Like, I feel more comfortable, on set doing this work. Or was it a gradual thing? Did it kind of take a little while to develop?
Oh, it took a little while to develop, because I was like an iceberg thawing out throughout the whole thing, Took a while for that. When I was in his hand and I was all by myself, Rhodes told me before I went to do those scenes, I said, well, what am I, there's nothing there, And he said, so, well, let me give you an example. He said, I had a scene with this woman who had very bad breath, and the scene called for me to kiss her. And I did not want to kiss her. And he said, so what I did is, he says, you just, and I didn't realize I have a strong imagination. And he said, you just use your imagination. And I imagined her face was a rose, not her face. And I kissed that rose. And he says, that's what you do. You just use your imagination. And so somehow that clicked. And so when I was in his hand all by myself, and they'd say, look over there. And I go, where? Oh, over there. Because there was nothing marked. It was like somewhere up in the sky. And this is happening. And I want you to say and think and do this. And that really helped me. So that felt a little more natural. Mm-hmm. And then I remember him and I talking about crying on cue. And it was like a challenge, And so we were at Tokyo Tower. And I had this scene where I had been tousled and dropped and rolled and all over Tokyo Tower. And I'm on the ground and I'm running to him and Takarada. And I was able to cry. No one saw it because my back was to the camera. Wow. And I didn't care. Mission accomplished. I cried, Yeah. And so it was very gradual, but I liked I think what made me like it was being with the family of actors and the set crews and the director, just all of us we're like a big family, even the guys sweeping the floor or whatever. It was just, we were all in it together, and I really liked that experience. Being an only child, I never have, my daddy's in the Air Force, so we're moving all the time. So even though I have cousins I adore, I never see them. We don't have all these, years and decades of memories of doing things together because I'm always off to part of the world or part of the United States. So, yeah. So I really liked that feeling. Now, it was very different when I came back to the States. Very, very different. But at that time, and that's, I think, where I got the bug. And in modeling, you have a short life, because you're only that young so long. And it wasn't like I put all this together logically. It just kind of organically. I thought, well, my career in modeling, in the States, forget it. I'm too short. I'd have to stay here in Japan, which I could have. I had the opportunity to stay behind and do some stuff. But I decided I was too young and I needed to go home with my mom and dad.
It's fair.
Yeah. So I like that whole feeling. And being a foreigner and a foreign young woman who was kind of sheltered, I felt a lot of respect towards me in the sense that I was never taken advantage of. If I was, I didn't know it. I was never hit on. I was treated like somebody's sacred little sister. I was always felt like the little sister, And so I never had any bad experiences. So for me, in fact, this is so weird. I've been binge watching on YouTube, and I'm binge watching apartments in Tokyo. And so all the others go, well, no, I could never live in that one. Oh, I could live in that one, and so I don't know if I'm fantasizing about moving back to Japan or what. I don't know, but so everything Japanese to me, it draws my spirit. I really,
sure.
I love Japan.
Formative time of your life, and
yeah,
what a crash course in performing and acting and filmmaking too.
Also in morals, also in all of that you said is true, but also in the way that they lived, and I mean things that we did in the States, I would never do in Japan. And I would never walk the streets at midnight down in the Ginza after a photo shoot and get on a train at midnight all by myself, and feel perfectly safe, And it's just a different kind of, they have a respect for it's different, and it's not 100% perfect. And I love America, and I love my life here. But I'm very capable of living a dual life. Very capable. Yeah. I don't know how we got on that, but
I'm here for it. That's beautiful insight.
Was there a big jump in direction and things like that? We talked about Honda and I mentioned My Three Sons. Was there, in terms of direction, in terms of production, was there like a big culture shift between?
Yep. There was for me. Honda, it felt like we were part of, well, that's the Japanese mindset. It's the group, not the individual. In America, it's the individual, not the group. So when I did My Three Sons, Fred de Cordova, who did the Johnny Carson show, was the director of my episode. And it was very matter of fact. It was not personable. It was not warm and fuzzy at all. It just was, okay, you do this now. All right, let's set up this scene. Let's set up It wasn't a bad experience. It just wasn't a fun experience,
Yeah. I get that in my own acting career a little bit. It's almost like the jobs that meant the most to me were the ones where I had that really strong sense of ensemble.
Yes.
Even if they weren't like the most high paying job, they were the ones that I still look back on the most fondly.
Now, I look back fondly on My Three Sons for a couple of reasons. Number one, the way I got the job. I was sent in, and Edmund Hartman was the producer, I guess. And I went in and sat down, started talking to him. And I said, I have a very good friend, and her last name is Hartman. And he said, well, what's her name? I said, Linda. And he goes, that's my niece. I said, she's my best friend in acting class. I said, I was just at her house swimming last weekend, and that's why I got the job, I'm sure, It didn't help that I knew somebody who knew somebody, and I had no idea. So, and that what got me my SAG card. And he said, I'm telling you what I'm going to do for you. I'm going to give you this part. It's going to get you your SAG card, and I wish you all the best, And he treated me very nicely. And so I got my SAG card because of that. So I like that. And it's so funny. I have told everybody for the entire time they've ever asked me, I never met Don, the main character, the boy that was.
I can't think of his name off the top of my head either. I really like My Three Sons.
Anyway,
I wrote a book about 1966 television, and I can't
say you're the guy.
I'm the guy. I can't think of it.
Anyway, that guy, I told everybody, no, I was just on the soundstage doing the telephone scenes, and that's it. And I knew that was true. Well, I had a friend say, hey, you're on Prime on My Three Sons. So I watched the episode. I went, holy cow. Not only did I meet him, I was outside in a car with him, and I had completely erased that from my memory. I did not remember doing that at all. I only remember myself, all by myself, doing the telephone scenes. So,
wow. That's great. Linda, I have a couple of questions from some Patreon supporters of the podcast. They give a little financially each month. And I said, we're going to be talking to you, and we'd love to relay any questions that you all might have.
Sure.
So just a couple. And I'll give a shout out to Jim and Don. And a couple of these questions are from Don. And just like you said, kind of these common questions. So I'm parsing through these.
I'll be glad to answer them again. I have a whole script in my head.
Well, how about this one? Don asks, have you watched other Toho films? And if so, do you have any favorites?
Yes. And it's Ghidorah, the three-headed monster, that one. Okay.
That's one of my favorites.
Natsuki Yosuke stars in it, and he's the guy I was in love with. So I was watching TV, and I was going through all the shows. And I went, oh my God. And I saw it because he was in it. So I flipped. So I like that one. Oh shoot. I loved Kurosawa's films, because I thought Mifune was a specimen of a man like no other. And,
you and me both. Just got to say
that. God. Let me tell you, I'm sitting at the commissary when doing King Kong Escapes, and the commissary door opens, and in he walks. Literally silence. It was like an old E.F. Hutton commercial, which you're too young to even know about, where somebody would walk in and everybody would stop doing whatever they were doing, and it was dead silence. He walked in, it was dead silence. He was beautiful. He almost radiated. I mean, I didn't have I didn't even think to go up and, which you wouldn't do in Japan anyway, to go up and introduce myself and tell him I think you're beautiful. No, I haven't done that. But he was so he was more handsome in life than he was in the films, and very manly and very macho. I like that word because I know what it means to me. Some women get freaked out by it. I don't care. Very macho guy. Gives you chills. He was awesome. So he came in and got some food and then left, and nobody said a word until he left. It was like God had walked into the room or something.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was one of the highlights of me filming was Mifune, now that I think back on it. Yeah. So what was the question? I forgot. What films?
Yeah, other Toho films that might be your favorites.
I didn't really watch a lot because I worked a lot and they were in Japanese, and I didn't go to the film very often at all. Just the things I've seen on TV, Kurosawa's stuff and Natsuki's stuff. That's about it. Yeah. I'm so sorry. That was such a...
Those were the most amazing answers you could have given.
I'm sorry, guys.
Was there any aspect of your character in King Kong Escapes? This is again from our fan Don. Any aspects of the character that you personally identified with?
Pretty much all of it, because I didn't know how else to not identify with it. I played myself because I didn't know how to do anything else. So, except in the bad scene.
Are you willing to share which one that is? It's okay if not.
Yes, I'll share it.
Okay.
Because you got to look it up. It's so bad. You got to agree with me. It's horrible.
Okay.
It's where we're on the submarine, and Rose or Captain Nelson is talking about, we've got to go to Mondo Island and get King Kong. And they do this close up of me going, I'll do it. And it is so phony. And I was so uncomfortable. You could almost see my skin crawling in the film. It is the worst. They could have just cut it out, but that's the worst, to me, the worst part of the film.
Okay. I'll keep an eye out for it.
But yeah, please do. But mostly it was like Linda Miller in a outfit playing a part, and only Linda Miller can do it because she doesn't know how to be anybody else.
Well, you were in a position of authority. You were kind of calling the shots a little bit. Well,
I can do that in life, especially if it's in the script. Yeah. No, I mean, I'm shy at first. It's back then, shy at first, and then once I get comfortable, then I'm kind of outgoing, and so. And also, too, I had the two guys that I really related to and I liked, and they liked me. And so it just kind of flowed,
Yeah.
So I hope you liked her personality, because that is me.
That's you.
That's me.
Okay. Last question or comment. This is from Jim out there. Less of a question because you've answered in the midst of our conversation. So anyways, Jim wants to just leave a comment about the green slime.
Okay.
He says, it is a sight to behold. It's ridiculous, but it's ridiculous on a grand stage. The sets are monumental. The storytelling is clearly legit. The overacting is delightful, cheesy at its finest. And then he goes on to compare it to the movie Alien and sees a lot of similarities in that. So,
well, let me tell you, When my girlfriend and I were on the set just watching them, we came when they were doing the hallway, and we looked at each other and said, "Oh, this can't be for real," And they were little kids in uniform in these costumes, and it was so ridiculous it was entertaining, And yeah, so everything he said was accurate. But as far as Alien, I went and saw Alien. And when that alien popped out of his stomach, I almost threw up. I got up out of the theater and I left because I thought, I can't take any more of that.
Toho wasn't making that stuff.
No, it freaked me out so bad. It shocked me. The shock value of that was so awful. And then another shock value when I was doing, it was like my third convention in Cleveland, Ohio, and they had me sitting next to a filmmaker who did slasher movies. And he had his little, I guess, computer laptop. And all day long, I listened to girls scream as they got murdered.
Oh my God.
And I don't like those kind of films. And I had to sit next to it and kind of try to tune it out. And one time I got up and I said, "Do you really like making these movies?" He goes, "Yeah, I really like it. I really like when the blood gushes." And I go, "Okay." So that's why Nightmare on Elm Street or Friday the 13th, I can't go see those kind. If you're, I don't want to see you slashing. You can slash, and I can know you slash. I just don't want to see it. I don't. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, remember the movie Cat People? Does you guys remember that movie at all?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I love that.
Oh, I thought that you never saw the cat, but you always saw the shadow or something. I thought that was an awesome film for that, aspect of it.
The power of suggestion.
Yes. That's why the sex scenes. I don't like it when they show full on sex, but when you think they're going to do something and they're doing something and you can't see it, that's sexier than a guy and a girl banging each other. You know what I mean? I'm sorry. What time is it? Yeah.
No, I forget you're on the East Coast. It's all right.
I'm giving myself an out here.
Totally. Our fans of the podcast, they've written in, they knew we were going to have this conversation. They just really are expressing their gratitude for your legacy, the mark you've left on this genre we all love. And I would echo that. And I really just thank you so much for this time and this conversation and just chatting about things we all care about so much. Really, thank you.
And that's why I like doing it. You know what I'm saying? And I've said many, many times, as much as the fans get from me being there, I equally get that much from the fans from being there. And I'm not just saying that. That's what keeps me going, Yeah. And especially as the older I get, and I'm looking at 80 pretty soon, and I'm thinking, when am I going to quit? And I'm thinking, I'm probably never going to quit. I'm probably going to say, "Oh, she was scheduled to be here, but she died." You know what I'm saying?
And not for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
80 is the new 40, I think.
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I've been, anyway, yeah, 80's the new 40.
You don't need us to say keep going, but
yeah. And even if you didn't say it, I would probably still keep going because I enjoy it so much. Yeah. It's like I have my real life, and then I have this little bit of a fantasy life over here. And having a real life all the time can get boring. So this is like a little bit of sugar on my cereal,
It's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah.
Well, I'll be thinking about you when I'm hitting the convention this weekend at G-Fest.
Have a wonderful time.
You have a blast at your next event and all your events coming up.
All right. Thank you so much.
I don't want to hog the goodbyes, but I hope to stay in touch. And
anytime. You've got all my info.
Yeah, likewise. Thank you, Linda.
You're welcome. Thanks so much, Vincent.
Thank you, Linda. This has been such a pleasure. Great to talk to you.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Tom. Tom, thank you for being the bridge.
Hey,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom. You started all this.
But I can. Linda, you've always been great. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I enjoyed meeting and talking to all you guys.
Likewise.
All right. Have a good evening. Have fun at G-Fest.
Thank you.
And I like your cat, by the way.
Thanks. He had to join at the very end here.
I was about to say, there he is.
Yeah, had to. Inevitable.
Yeah.
It was nice to meet you again, Linda.
Right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, guys.
Good night.
Bye.
Thank you, listeners, for hanging out with us. If you liked what you heard, please give us a rating and a review. Follow us on patreon.com/Camp Kaiju. Email us, Instagram, you know where to go. And know that you can drop us a voicemail at the answering machine zone, 612-470-2612. Camp Kaiju is recorded in Minneapolis, St. Paul, with Media's Mailbox by Ben Cook Feltz. Thank you, friends, and until next time, stay campy.
My broker says that with 2 children to put through college, I should start investing in stocks. What does your broker say?
Well, Frank, my broker's E.F. Hutton. And E.F. Hutton says, when E.F. Hutton talks, people listen.
Open the door, you'll find the secret. To find the answer is to keep it. You'll believe it when you find something screaming across your mind. Green slime. What can it be? What is the reason? Is this the end to all that we've done? Is it just something in your head?